if you're open to the unknowns, life has a really interesting way of coming through.
If you repress something that is related to your emotion, basically you are repressing something that is part of you.
When we just silent our own pain, we also oppress other people's pain.
I really felt like I paused and heard you and was listened to as well.
Here we are.
We made it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think I'm grateful for what we did together, and I'm already looking forward of what we will do together next. And it's amazing how we started in winter and now finally we are seeing a bit of sunshine coming out.
Yeah.
And
You can see it.
so first of all, thank you both for the amazing conversations and wowy moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the thing that came up for me also in this moment that we took together was gratefulness, and I really wanted to hug you. And
We'll hug you both.
happy. Like really, 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 really grateful for this and that we could do this together. And I can't, like, I will miss you both so much. Like the finish of this. Really. And also Puppy, yesterday I was I was telling Khadija, we were in a call with another person. I said I miss Puppy, and she was like, we'll meet her tomorrow, it's okay. I was like, but then it will finish. And Ricardo is suggesting that something else will happen with Puppy. But okay, I don't want to put you in a difficult position, but we would love to see you again. And yeah, all of that.
No, thank you. Yeah, I learned, first of all, actually, that's the thing that come up for me as well the most was thank you both. Um, I've learned so much. It feels like we've gone through, okay, I'll own this. I feel like I've gone through a mini therapy process myself with you,
Yeah. Yeah.
with what we've done for five weeks together. Um, and I'm still sort of reflecting that. And it was just also really cathartic that it came at the latter part of my marathon journey. So we're ending our fifth session today, and I'm going to be doing the big run on
Yeah.
Monday morning. And so I am deeply grateful for the universe for creating the opportunity for us to do this, and the timing of this has been personally really relevant, but it wasn't planned that way. It just sort of came together in the way that it has, and it's meant a lot. And the other couple of things that I thought was how much I've loved working with two women of color, different ethnicities. We're in two different countries. We're on two different generations, and it really gave me an insight into I really felt like I paused and heard you and was listened to as well. So and that's meant something, and I'm not quite sure what that is exactly yet, but I guess there was something about the fact that we worked as equals on this, even though I'm much older than you. Um and something about the fact that we met with honesty and transparency on all the subjects that we decided that we were going to unveil here, and some of that was done outside of the sessions that we recorded, and some of that was done in session. But I have learnt so much from spending time with you in that way. Um, and then the other thing I was thinking was how serendipity works, right? So if I
Mm.
hadn't been in Bologna and you hadn't been there,
Yeah.
Khadija, like this would have never happened. And I knew Bologna was a really special conference to me because of the building that it was hosted in. It was one of the
Mm.
oldest sort of academic institutes in the country and maybe even in the region. It's got real
Yeah.
historical values.
Yeah.
So when I was in that conference room delivering the talk that I did, I felt like ancestral healing happening there.
Mm.
And for that to then continue 3, 4 years later in this way with in such a special way, I just was like, wow.
Mhm.
Um, if you're open to um the unknowns, life has a really interesting way of coming through. And um, I think the other thing that I really learned from you too was just taking pause, like even just now pausing for 30 seconds before we started talking. And these sessions every Friday for the last Friday have meant that I paused in my week to reflect on the week.
Mhm.
Um, instead of just going, right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that's my DNA. That's what I do. That's what I think we're all wired to do. Um, so yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
It's been great, and I look forward to whatever Ricardo thinks we're going to be doing next. Like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Stay open to it, but I don't feel like this is the end of our relationship. I feel like I'm gonna see you when I come to Italy, like Italy, when you guys come here. I feel like this is the beginnings of a friendship that will continue for a very long time, if not forever. So whatever we do with that, who knows? I'm open to that. So thank you.
Yeah. And can you believe that the person that told me to go to the conference, to come to that conference, it's not a person I like. But I still came to it. See?
Yeah,
Life.
I, yeah,
it's really interesting, isn't it?
it's really,
Really
Yeah.
interesting. It's a so let's explain to that. If you don't like that person, why did you take their advice?
Because the conference was framed really well.
Yeah.
So I really like because it was around basically how knowledge can be shared. Um, and it was around knowledge and health. Now I don't
Yeah.
remember anymore.
Yeah.
It was something that I've never really seen around. So I was attracted by that.
Yeah.
So see,
yeah.
Yeah.
there was
It's a,
something.
yeah,
And
totally. Um,
another interesting thing was that, like, when one of the first times we met with Khadija, uh, and before she joined the podcast, I think this was like 1 year before she joined the podcast, and we were just talking about her joining the podcast. She was coming up with the name of interesting people that she wants to have on the podcast, and you were one of the first names. And
Yep.
then we didn't talk about it until 1.5 years later
Mm-mm.
we contacted you. And then as we say that the timing was so right. I think, like, also personally for me it was very right to be in this very moment.
oh,
It's really interesting how things
Yeah,
work.
mm, mm,
for sure. Healing has something to do with all this.
Mm,
Don't know
totally.
how,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
And throw time at things, right? So the um the um the impatience that
Mm.
this is all obvious stuff, but pain, whether it's emotional or physical, is something that naturally we want to get rid of from our lives. And the entire medical system is set up for that, right? So the entire
Mm-hmm.
system is set up for how do we get rid of your pain, and then longevity comes from that. But in the first instance, it's how do we reduce pain, and that's right. And whether that's taking some pills to get rid of the headache or whatever it is that you're doing. But that emotional pain bit is so multifaceted. And that's where we started in session one is how do you heal? How do you even recognize that there's parts of you that need healing and that you are in pain? Because if it's physical, if it doesn't have a physical manifestation, which it does for some people, um, how do you know you need to heal? And and I think the some of the things that I've learnt on this journey with you, and our wonderful guests, and is that it can manifest in behavior that's destructive,
Mhm.
either in the world or in for ourselves.
Mhm.
So, inability to foster trust, so therefore not inability to have longer term relationships with people, inability to see ourselves in the mirror and think we're beautiful, or
Mhm.
um, the world doesn't see us as being beautiful, or the world doesn't adjust to fit our body. And so we're constantly in inconvenience. And if that's the message that you constantly get, when someone says yes, you don't believe them. And yet
Mhm.
that's the opportunity missed for a connection or a friendship. Um, and so therefore you never heal. So therefore that
Mhm.
part of you never gets fulfilled because you never have a friendship of the value of the type that you think. So there's so many things that have emerged that are, how do we recognize pain, and emotional pain or disruptions in our self and being, that we can, once we notice it, we can just say hello to it. That
Mhm.
seems to be okay. Like that was one thing that I thought, it's just to go, oh, hello.
Mhm.
I see you. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is uh the musicians and the exercise, the second session I think we did, which was the third one, but where those three artists, I know two of them talked very personally about their lived experiences, but those two artists found a beautiful way to express their pain.
Mhm.
And so the other thing that came out for me in these sessions is there is an assumption that pain is always bad.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, what we've learned through some of our guests is that pain can be expressed in activism. Pain can be expressed in changing the structure around research methodologies for the future. So you sow a seed, and that will hopefully breed a whole new way of doing things way before your time on this planet. Um, you can sing, and your singing brings joy to people. Your singing actually brings out art in other people. So we saw drawings on that session which
Mhm.
expressed something. So that pain of the depression that our dear friend shared, and then her singing, and then the art that was created in the session, they were all connected and they were feeding through, from one point to another. And I guess us and our journey starting almost 3 years ago, and here we are, like, time is irrelevant almost when it comes to uh, recognizing pain in the first place, and then being open to what might happen with that, and the surprises that come along the way.
Mhm. Mhm.
So many things.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it's a bit related to what you were talking about. So the fact that we are used to, whenever we feel pain, to try to reduce it. But actually, something that happened to me years ago now with a colleague, I think I just said, oh, I have headache. And he was like, did you try to drink water? Did you try this or did you try that? Because most of the time our body give us signal of what is happening. We are just not able to, interpret those signs and do something with them. So the fact that we take just a painkiller to silence everything, it means that then, we are in this cycle that we need in
mm,
some way to break to understand what our bodies are telling us. And we learn so much, and we learn that body is not only the physical part, but it's all the emotional part. So if you repress something that is related to your emotion, basically you are repressing something that is part of you. And then how do you fix that? And again, fixing not in the sense that we are making it perfect, we are just making it, working for yourself, which
mm,
is also something that is, we are always trying to achieve something that is perfect for some. someone that is outside our bodies
Mm,
instead of trying to achieve what's perfect for for ourselves. And it's something that yeah, came up a
mm,
lot
mm,
during all the sessions. And something also, I'm saying something so many times. Another thing that came up, and I wanted to share with you, it's actually we talked with many different people, and everyone expressed themselves in different way. And at some stage we talked about culture, about colonizer removing cultures from places. And there is a word, there is a buzzword now, at least in Italy, and or maybe we could say in Europe, and it's identity. And every time identity is so misused, it's like I'm using identity to say that I'm something else from you, and
mm,
I'm trying to protect what I am, instead of saying identity is it's me and it's what I cherish and it's what I want to share with you. And there are
mm,
so many things that happen when you say I'm this, you are something else. And also the fact that you kind of attach sometimes your identity to your citizenship, and this is also something that it's really disruptive sometimes, because boundaries, bodies, there are so many things that then comes into play when we just say identity. And it was a word that when I was reflecting just came up, and I
mm,
didn't know what to do with it.
mm, mm. I love what you've just said, Khadija, and do you think it's really that the word identity, um like there's been a shift in the understanding of the word, like what the word
Hmm.
identity is from my generation to your generation to the next generation, definitely, and how we identify. I think mm, one reflection of mine is that how I see my children identify as who they are is coming from within, because what I've done is gone, you're great, you work out who you are, and whoever you are, you're amazing, and you go and you tell the world who you are,
Hmm.
and the world will either embrace you, or it doesn't, but don't worry about that, you be you. And it's a very and it's a very individual thing, identity.
Mm.
So, and but I remember growing, like my learning of what identity was much more about, and I'm not saying one is wrong with the other, I haven't got a hierarchy, was how I related to other people and so how people related back to me. So often, the questions I'd be asked during interviews or, coaching sessions, what would your friend say about you? What would your dad say
Mm.
about you? What would your siblings say about you? So my identity was shaped by the relationship I had with community around me. Um, and so it was outside in.
Mhm.
And whereas I see, like, my kids and the next my nieces and nephews, their identity, we've encouraged it. It's you are you first, and then the world, you relate to the world. And the more I've been thinking about that, the more I feel like there needs to be a balance.
Yeah, agree.
Um, and I wonder whether the inside out version is partly causing the loneliness um that is in the world, because um because if I am this person and I don't care whether the world accept me or not, I am me. I wonder whether I am then not open to seeing other perspectives and learning and growing, to actually learning how to develop some of the tentacles to grow and reach out and connect with people, not at the expense of my identity, but with the openness to grow and have layers. And I'm not sure whether I'm making sense, but I have been thinking about this. Whereas for me, this outside in, I hated that. Like, I didn't want to be the mother and the sister and the wife and
Mhm.
that my heritage and identity was supposed to be all of those things. And then after that, if you have a career, then that's great. Like, but that's not your priority. So it was so fed that I repelled so much that, but I'm wondering whether one of the things that I'm seeking is balance again, is I then went really far the other way, which was no, I am me and I'm a CEO and I'm a free, empowered brown woman and check me out. But actually, in that journey, I took a lot, I carried a lot on my shoulders, and that's been heavy because it's you're carrying the fight all the time. Um, and I think there's something in the middle of that, and I see that represented in generations. And I wonder what you just said, Khadija, just made me think about that, the identity element and how loaded it is in terms of baggage that we carry.
Yeah. I mean, we are not island, so for sure, even when we say identity, yeah, it's yours, but it's so much influence, but what's around you. And I don't think there's nothing bad in it. It's just, as we were saying in the beginning, who knows? I mean, you did not choose to be born in a place or another place, but still it can shape so much who you are. And I think as long you are conscious, it's good. And then, of course, if you need to do the healing, let's start from there.
Mm,
And I think based on my 30 years of living on the planet with other human beings, um, I think the thing that I observed is that our way of always finding balance is going to separate extremes. And that's kind of the way that we learn, it seems to me.
mm,
And I can see this, yeah, a lot with your generation that was, yeah, very bus girl, and you wanted to get that part of, yeah, yourself out. And then the generation like late millennials or maybe Gen Z, that they want to go back. And again, I see that the way that people kind of introduce themselves, it's again back to the way that you were saying that you didn't like to be introduced. Like they say, I'm a sister, I'm a mother,
mm,
I'm a daughter, and I also do this. um, but the I think the inside out probably can be really great, but I think the way that our inside out is right now defined is very much mixed also with materialism and individualism. And that's why it's not really inside out. It comes still from, like, it's still very ego driven, even if like there's so much beauty in that. But I think if we are able to connect to that really, really, really inside and build from there up, of course we see our own individual capacities and talents and all the beauty that we can bring to the world. But it's still, I think, as an identity, um it would be, we could still identify ourselves as one humanity, but with different capacities, and that different capacities didn't wouldn't have to separate us. I think another thing is that we really have identity crisis in the age that we are living in the sense that we are taught to identify ourselves by whatever divide us from each other. So your country, your color, your um, gender, your but I think like the very short human identity is being a human, and then each of us of course have our own capacities. And I think when we are able to go to that inner part of ourselves, we see those capacities not as something that, yeah, this makes me different from others or better or whatever, but it makes me be able to contribute to this whole humanity in a different way, and that's beautiful, and another person in a different way, and that's beautiful. um so yeah, I think a lot of things probably needs redefinition throughout these years, like how we define power and, success. And like, because our powers are also now very pedestal based and one above the other rather than,
Mm.
so yeah, I think we are in a transitioning moment, probably, that we're redefining a lot of things. But yeah, I don't know.
Great, I love it. I did a are you two into color therapy at all? I mean, of course, you're of course the color is what part of you or everything that you design, but do you have a, different colors mean different things, either on a spiritual level, but visually, like how does that, have you got
Like
views and thoughts on that?
personally or scientific?
Both. I mean, in your work and personally.
Because I did like my first master degree. I did. Is it the first one? No, the second one. Okay,
Of
I did
course.
at some stage a research on how space influence humans. And one of the things that came up, of course, I mean, I did it around the five senses, and then one of the senses was the sight. And so there was this research that did an experiment and put like people in different rooms with different colors. So they were saying what the different colors not really means, but what was the influence people had on different colors. So you have blue that makes them like calm, and yellow that make people a bit more excited. But what I really liked, yeah, orange. But what I really liked of the research that at some stage it was saying, I mean, no matter what we said, if someone was taking a blue pill that was disgusting every day, if you do for them a bathroom that is blue, they will hate it. So the fact that
Super cool.
yeah, because sometimes we feel like everything is the same for everybody, but then you really need to, sit down and talk to the person to really know what a color could mean for them. And it happens to me the same when I was in Belfast. I think we were choosing a color for a logo or for something. And for me, it was not representing anything that has to do with healthcare, but for them it was. And we are still in Europe, but we are from different country. So again, color is something powerful, but we feel sometimes that it's universal, but it's not really. I
Mm.
mean, it's
Yeah.
but who knows?
What about you, Arizu, color, and in terms of healing and spirituality, or in fact, like your environment, what does it mean to you?
It's orange.
The walls. I don't know. For me, any color that reminds me of nature and soil and stuff makes me
Mm.
happy. Because, like, for years, I had this, like, I was closing my eyes and I really wanted to touch a clay soil. And because I think I was very disconnected from nature, and I still have this vision and I still didn't touch it. But there comes the wall. Um, but yeah, I think anything that reminds me of nature, so the earthy colors, yeah, and they're often all of my paintings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Mm.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, for me it's blue because I like the sea.
Yeah.
It's easy peasy. Yeah, yeah.
So I think so.
Yeah.
And something completely right, isn't it? And we touched on it a little bit in the one that we did around sort of fashion and expression, but the so what we're agreeing is that actually color can be quite a evocative
Mhm.
thing, and it can actually be quite moving emotionally, and it's something I don't think we pay enough attention to. But the little story I'll share with you about healing and color that happened this week was I mean, I think color is really important. So when you come to Brighton, you'll see my house is and it's very earthy colors. So like you, Arizo, I'm into, so it's a lot of greens and terracottas and sort of very natural colors internally. That top that you've got on, I think it's called Indian Summer or something in the color range that I've bought.
Ooh.
So it's my sitting room is that color and the carpet in this room is that color. So
Beautiful.
I've really consciously created inside of this house is a very warm and earthy color palette, and there's plants everywhere because my husband loves plants. So it feels sometimes it feels a little bit like a jungle, but I love it. and and what I find really interesting is as soon as people walk in, even if it's little kids, like when my niece and nephew came here first, because we've only lived here a couple of years, and the first time they came in, they're like, 10 and 8 and 5, I think it was. They were like, wow. So as soon as they walked into the house, there was like a real wow moment because there was so much color. And then they calmed down. So it was quite interesting because of I think there's something about the environment, and you can create a mood, definitely through lighting and color. And we did that quite consciously again through some of the recordings, didn't we? Where we were like, we got a candle and we sent a brief to some of the people that joined on, this is the vibe that we want to create. And so I think there's that we've modeled how we might do some of the healing conversation in healing spaces. But have you two ever done any work around Reiki? And have you come across the color palette of Reiki work? Okay.
No.
So some people think it's a little bit woo-woo, and it might be. But the idea is
We
that
are woo-woo.
yeah, it's a bit woo-woo. So, but it's the idea that you've got chakras, and I don't know enough about Reiki, but there's the crown chakra is a different color, and then I think there's a sight chakra, and then there's a throat, and then there's
Yeah.
the heart, and then so it goes down, and each chakra is called is a different color, and really good Reiki practitioners do healing through getting you to visualize the color. And I remember and I'll give two little stories. So the very first time I experienced Reiki, I was doing a leadership course for Black people, Black managers, and in the NHS, in the National Health Service in the UK, and I must have been 20, 24, 23, like young.
Okay.
and we module 3 was on oppression, and
Mhm.
and it was really heavy. Like so in module 3, and it was a 2-day residential every time we went away. We did it over a year, and every month we'd go away for 2 days. Module 3, oppression, and what they did is they divided us into our ethnicity, as close to our ethnicity group. So I was in a group of Asian women. There was another group, Black women, African men, Caribbean men. So they really split us
Mm.
up. And in those tiny groups, we read some papers around the oppression of Asian women and what that meant. Anyway, suffice to say, after being exposed to all of my traumas in a very small group, it became very internalized. So we were initially looking at the racism in the health service, and how do we as managers in the health service and women, people of color, Black people, and the Black was a universal term at that time, we're talking 20 years ago. How do we navigate that? And in that module, they became very internal. Like, if you don't understand how you experience oppression, then how are you ever going to manage that? Because you will constantly be addressing issues in a traumatized way. So if you see racism in an Asian woman and you feel you've had racism and you haven't ever expressed that, you'll be reacting from your personal place as opposed to a manager in this place. Does that make sense?
Very
So
much.
anyway, this oppressive session happened, and oppression session happened, and what I landed on me was the people that at that point in time, the people that I was most aggrieved by was my own people. So, and by my own people, I mean the Bangladeshi community, the Bangladeshi women and Bangladeshi men. And what hurt me the most was it was other Bangladeshi brown women that had hurt me more than the
Mm.
racism that I'd experienced by white people. And I was a wreck because
Mhm.
I'd completely lost it in this module 3 because I hadn't really appreciated that, you know, my first marriage was not one of consent. That happened because women in the family held up that structure and made it happen, and then insisted that I stayed in that structure because of family honor and women's identity and that outside in identity. So
Mhm.
in that module 3, I really yeah, I just lost. I just cried for 2 days.
Mm,
And I had a really bad headache. Obviously, because that's one of the
yeah.
ways that we. So when you cry so much, for me, when I cry so much,
Mhm,
I end up expressing it as a big migraine. And one of the tutors took me aside and did Reiki on me, and
mm,
he just got me to imagine colors, sit in a chair, imagine
mm,
me through what I had to do. I came out of the session without a headache. So I was
yeah.
like,
Mm.
this is like all magic happening, right? I'm a young 23-year-old suddenly realizing what oppression and like is really is. Then having this older black woman, wise, like someone
Mhm,
that we looked up to, do Reiki like it was magic. And it was just a really interesting process. Anyway, so I haven't done Reiki since. Haven't thought about it. As I've dropped in lots of times, I'm running the marathon, and this marathon is on Sunday. And I've been getting really anxious about it. What if I can't do it? What if people, I've told everybody now, for the first 6 months, I didn't tell anybody. Now everybody knows, and I've LinkedIn post about it. And what if I can't complete it? And I've raised money
mm,
for a nest. Like, what if, so all of these fears are kicking in. And I thought, I'm going to go and have a massage. So I went and booked a massage with my therapist, like Anna, who I normally use for all my massages. And in that massage, she was chatting to me, and then I just said, "Oh, Anna, I didn't hear what you're saying, but I can see, I can visually see like I'm going into a purple tunnel." Like,
Mm,
so what, when you close your eyes and sometimes you can see colors.
mhm,
And I was really, so she was massaging my legs at the time, and I was on, and I could visually see, I was face down on my, she was doing the backs of my legs, and I could see a purple tunnel. And she said, "Oh, that's the crown chakra." She just said, "Oh, enjoy the ride." And then she
ah.
just stayed quiet. So this is what happened. And
Mhm.
it sounds like I was on drugs, right? But I really wasn't. But I was not stoned. I was not on drugs. I was just
we believe
really
you.
outside. But I saw the color purple, then I saw the color red, then it paused for a minute and I didn't see anything. Then I saw indigo, and then I saw orange and yellow. Um, and so on the way home, I came home and I looked up the colors on Reiki, and this is what it is. It says the first color purple is I understand.
Mm,
The red is I am. The indigo is I see.
mm,
The orange is I feel. And the yellow is I do. I remember
Here you go.
so I thought, oh my God, right. So I understand, I am, I see, I feel, I do. That's going to be my mantra for the marathon. Like when you get to pain points in life and you need to, and when I was because I, in the Islamic faith, they'd have the prayer beads, and mum is always doing the tasbih, and there's lots of prayers that you can just recite on repeat, and
Yep.
there's a comfort that comes from different prayers, and it made me think of that. Those five, it's almost like my five prayers for how to get through this bit. But I was also thinking, okay, Reiki must mean something, and my body's clearly had a significant healing moment in that, where it was telling me what I needed, a bit like your
mm,
headache and do you need a water or do you need to suppress that with a paracetamol? Because I went and gave it the treatment where it needed, which is nourishment and just some care, it emerged. And because I was open to it, and I guess maybe because I've had Reiki before, I just felt like there was a real messaging in
Mhm,
that. But and it
mm,
missed out three colors. Like there's three colors that I didn't see. But when I was
mm,
reading chocolate, those three colors didn't resonate. It was in that order that where I am. Does that?
mm.
I was just, yeah. I thought I'd share that. So I do think that is also part of here.
mhm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And you want to go first? No, I think, yeah, I think really a big part of like the remedy to the world issues is also us listening to ourselves, and as like the conversations that you were having in the beginning of, not silencing the pain or the anger or all the feelings that come out. Yeah, the pain that is physically or the pain that it, comes out spiritually or emotionally. And, I remember one of the main sentences that I was hearing as a child was that don't listen to your emotions, or, you're going to destroy your life, something like that. And especially, yeah, it's a very masculine messaging. Um, and I think, um, and that came together with, the ones who listen to themselves are selfish. Whereas I think the answer to the word issues is going there and feeling the emotions and slowing down and listening to the emotions. And because if we do truly the self-care, then we are also able to take care of others and the world. Whereas when we just silent our own pain, we also oppress other people's pain and yeah, create the world that we create now. And I feel like a lot of us are in the grief stage. And they say of course, again, there is a process to grief, and the last stage is acceptance. And I think a lot of people have accepted the world as it is, not to feel the pain of this grief, because it's like a cut that is open because we are living in the state of the world of today. And if we let it be open every day, we would be grieving the world that we don't have access to. But I think the people that we talk to, the musicians and the artists um, and like Maya and Sabrina, they were all the ones that they didn't go to the acceptance, but they stayed in the anger and they created with their anger. And I think, yeah, that's so powerful. Um, so yeah, I think the part of the healing is not to feel bad, but to learn. And it's not even bad. Why should we call it feeling bad? Feeling, the full range of the emotions. So feeling creepily happy all the time, as the society wants us to be. But it's really feeling full range of emotion and being able to respond to those full range of emotion and listen to it, and bring that also to our work and service and how and what we create in the world. And yeah, I love that for you, that by listening to your emotions, you got what you needed. Otherwise, you could have oppressed it and have pain and, go to your marathon angry and stressed and, would feel guilt to the people that paid the, sponsorship, and would feel also maybe some frustration and anger there, but you gave yourself what you needed and you got the message, and yeah, you see and you understand, and now you do. So I think that's beautiful, and yeah, good for you.
Yeah, thank you. And also not just like what I've got with, because I've got these 5 sentences in my mind now, I'm like, well, whatever happens, that's what I'll use to anchor. Like that will be my tasbih, that will be my the reciting that I do when because at some point it's gonna I'm totally expecting exhaustion at some point, right? Because that's the point of this kind of long endurance activity, is that I'm pushing my body to do something it's never done before, and I have no idea how that last bit will look because I haven't done it yet. So, but I'm prepared and I'm excited. But this is also a tool that came out of me to face into it, rather than be scared of it. And I think this conversation is really helping. One thing I was going to say about grief and the process of grief, I was just looking it up as we were talking, is there's a model which is the 7 stages of grief that we go through, and we end with acceptance. But I've recently come across Francis Weller's work, which is 5 gates of grief. and The Wild Edge, and there's a book called The Wild Edge of Sorrow, and we'll put the link into the to this podcast. I haven't got anything more to say because I'm only just reading it on it, but as a beginning, it doesn't it talks about simultaneous things happening. So
Mm.
the model that you and I are referring to is like a process. You go through a
Yeah.
process, but actually, what he's suggesting is there's five gates, and all of these things are happening and that feels more without finishing the book and reading it all, I can't say anymore, but I offer that to our audience and ourselves as something else to read and look on and reflect. There's, like Khadija was saying, color means different things to different people.
Mm.
Grief and its processing will mean different things to different people. And we owe it to ourselves to learn what other, as a, I've researched and shared and gone, well, actually, it could be this way of
Mm,
looking at it, but there might be another way of looking at it.
yeah. And I feel sometimes we always look for order. And as you were saying with Maya and Sabrina, research now it's linear. It's something that, you have your steps and then you're done. You go from A to B, done. But actually, I mean, when you look at life, life has no order. And probably, I mean, that's the reason why it's beautiful. And it's the same, I feel, with, everything we go through, grief, every experience, we don't go from A to B in the same way. And sometimes we even go back.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, you open probably gates with the same at the same time, one with the head, the other one with, you know, with your feet. It's just, and it's your process to go through, and it cannot be the same for another person. And I think it's fine if, we are reading things because of course we are trying to find answer, and you can find them, when doing Reiki, reading a book, looking at the sky. You never know where your answer is coming from. But then I feel we should we should be fine when we don't see that in our grieving we are not doing the exact step, or we need to go back because we are not done with one of the steps,
Mm.
and not be so obsessed in trying to make sense of everything. I think it's also something that came up quite a lot. Not trying to make sense of everything because we are so human that not everything has an answer, and it's beautiful like this.
Yeah, I think that's in like the way exactly researched worked and the simplistic kind of utilitarian way that we looked at everything till now. It was because we wanted to understand everything with the brain, while like
Hmm.
and the brain of course is limited in this crazy huge thing that we are living in.
Yeah.
Um, but not everything is understandable through brain,
Mm-mm.
and that's why the feelings and
And then when you look at the brain, if you look at it at the scientific way, brain is not only rational. Like you have so many part of the brain, and one is the rational part, but then you have creativity is also in the brain, and instinct is in the brain. I mean, there are so many part of our brain that when we say brain, actually we would need to say much more than just I'm saying something rational. But we don't like it. It's scary. I remember I was in a lecture 2 years ago. Yeah. And this professor was talking about globalization. And he was talking about it from his perspective. So, white man, cisgender, etc., etc. So, and I was like just bubbling on my chair because he was just looking at, the European perspective on globalization. And then I was like, at the end, I could not hold it in. I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying, makes sense from your point of view. We get it. But then what happens if instead of looking from this perspective, you are shifting your perspective completely? And he was like, yeah, but then that brings too many uncertainties. I was like, wow.
sorry.
Sorry if I'm bringing uncertainties in your science,
Yeah.
but and see, and he is a professor. I mean, he's even like a super smart person. It's not about that. But as we were saying, not being able to see other perspective, really close yourself in a bubble that
Mm,
once you have to pop,
mm,
it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
mm,
And yeah, I think we've been taught through our education that there is one reality. And like until I started going to the work environment myself, I was thinking like everything that my teachers say are absolute truth. And because,
Yeah,
they were not
that's
mentioning anything else. So
mm-mm.
and now I'm like, how can we say anything? How can we, yeah, share anything and think like you never reach to the absolute truth. How the hell do you share it? And so every time I go to the class, I tell the students, like, this is from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
from my knowledge until this point of view, and nothing is absolute. But it's also scary to say that because then they think that, maybe you are not ready enough, to
Yeah.
be teaching. But do you ever like you're always evolving, otherwise you're just a static thing that never evolves.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important for the anyone that does any type of education to also share that this is coming from my biases and from my point of view, and the lecture that I created comes from what I thought it was important,
Yeah.
you know uh because yeah, then otherwise you enter the world and you're like, what the,
mm.
yeah.
And without meaning to, you run the risk of invalidating so much, but also limiting your own learning. And that's a really hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do. So
Yeah.
if you've got like this sense of conviction because that's been your work for 20 years, or that's been your like such an anchor point in your identity, where we started
Mm-hmm.
this conversation.
Yeah.
My identity is that I have worked in community mental health and particularly workplace mental health for the majority of my career. And people introduce me as experts, and I always like
Mm.
cringe a bit. I'm like, oh God, I'm really
Mm-hmm.
not an expert. Like, who is an expert? But to your point, Arizu, that what you were just saying, like once you've got this label of expert, everything that you're saying is assume that it's scientific, and it's not. So much of the work that I do is about culture.
Mm-mm.
That means something different from one room to the other, let alone one organization and one business to the other, let alone one country to the other. And that's the point, is that the point is you can do there here's some things that you can absolutely do. There's, respecting people, making sure that people aren't working long working hours, culture isn't a norm. People are able to speak up if they are experiencing negativity that is impacting their health or violating their personal space, or it sits in harassment. Like, people should be able to say something without the fear of losing their job, so creating psychological safety. But those things are subjectives, right? So what is psychological safety in one culture will not be psychological safety
Mm-hmm.
in another culture. And it will be different for genders, and it will be different for different age ranges. And that's the complexity of fostering a healthy culture within the workplace or in our family dynamics. And it's a never ending job. It's not a once and done, which is why it's so hard, because the way that the MBA students, and I did an MBA, what the way that we're taught in terms of like, okay, business, right? So this is a structure. Here's a model with 4 quadrants on it. And you do these four things. You understand the world from using this framework, the SWOT analysis. Let's look, and then
Yeah.
from that comes the actions that you do. And once you've done that, that's a job complete. It's a job complete for now.
Mm.
And it's job complete for this particular problem. You have to keep reshaping it, and it has to keep growing, and it can't always be done by you, because I will probably reproduce the same SWOT analysis, 10 for 10 times So it has to be done by other people and other perspectives each time, and we have to keep changing. Otherwise, there becomes a dissonance between the culture that I create in my family or my workplace and the culture that's required by the younger people that are coming into the workplace. It doesn't match. It doesn't match, and when we have that dissonance, we create unhealthy environments. And when the environment is unhealthy, we run the risk of traumatizing people because they don't feel psychologically safe. So they might not call out
Mhm.
gender discrimination. They might not call out sexual harassment. They might not call out whatever. Like they might not say it. They might live with that and what that does to them. And then they pass that on to their family members. I mean, it's
Mm,
just
mm,
to see it also our responsibility for creating environments and spaces, virtual and in real, whether that's, looking at color and what color sits in the room or and then, who decides that and what culture then sits in the decision making process is one that needs attention and
mm,
different environments will require in different things and being open to that. And the education system doesn't teach us that.
Mm.
So what you're doing, Arizu, in terms of preloading it with this is my frame of reference, is actually a very admirable quality in any leader to say, this is my frame of reference. I am here to open to learning from your frame of reference what this might mean, because that creates debate and learning on both sides. And the SWOT analysis isn't being done by the same
mhm.
person again and again and again. We're not on repeat and deja vu here. We're on growth and healing.
Mm. I have a question for you.
Mm. Mm.
Um, how do you think your personal healing or healing in general has impacted the way that you do your work?
Mm.
Or has it?
Mm, I need 10 minutes to think about it. How did it impact? Mm, not sure. I mean, there is something that is connected with what Poppy was talking about. So oppression for sure. So the fact that whenever I get into a room, or yeah, it still happen. Um, and I say, or they ask me, "Oh, so what do you do? You are an architect. Oh, you are an architect." So it's like, or there are so many microaggression, right? Oh, so you know Italian. How long have you been here? I mean, I guess all these sentences that I hear on repeat, in some way, they shape the way I do my job daily, which it depends on my mood because I'm sorry, I'm not always in a good mood. So if I'm on a good mood, I can just laugh it out and tell you, ha ha ha, I already told you that I'm Italian, so just leave me alone. Or something else that always like will amaze an average Italian person. It's the fact that my both my parents came in Italy, like to Italy for studying at the university, and it's
Mm.
always like, wow, how come? So I guess these are the things that in some way, yeah, shape the way I do my job, at least in Italy, because I always have to prove that I know what I'm doing,
Mm.
that I know what I'm talking about,
Mm. Mm.
that you can trust me. But I think it's also going back to the point of shaping and designing an environment that that it's safe for me, but also for the people I'm talking to, because most of the time I'm doing either workshop or meeting with multiple people.
Mm.
So yeah, it's the way I try to kind of, prepare the ground for the conversation has been shaped a lot from the oppression I got,
Give
and
you
I
the
guess
sensitivity.
yeah, I know how to read the room.
Mm,
I guess yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind at least.
Mm.
mm.
Not sure how I am in the healing. Most of the time, I just don't like people that tell me these things.
You're healed.
Yeah,
It's
or the worst one was when they told me, "Oh, so your name is Khadija. Why your name is not Alice?" And I'm like, "What the?"
from
Yeah,
now on,
because
you're Alice.
Alice Khadija, but yeah, because in Italian is Alice.
Alice.
Yeah, but still, nonsense. So I guess I'm really patient.
That's a really good. I like the fact that you got to that. Okay, so how your healing has influenced your work. I am patient. Go you. That's so true. I love that.
It makes
I
yeah.
am patient. Yeah.
It's the
What
only
about
way.
you? What about you, Marisa? How do you answer that question?
I was asking you.
I know, but I'm buying time.
I can see that. Okay, I won't let you think
I want like it.
while I'm answering. Okay, there's something in my eye.
Oh
One
no.
second. Ah,
Do.
it was my eyelash.
Oh.
Ooh, let me make a wish. Okay.
Did
Um,
we do that?
you don't?
No, I didn't know. Now I know.
You say
Hmm.
cultural thing.
No,
Yes.
no, I'll do it.
For me, yeah, maybe a lot also depends on the day and the amount of reflection I have access to, or I do, because yeah, it's yeah, most of the time it's not that I don't have the time, but yeah, it's a scary to reflect and then come from that space. But I think on a more bigger scale, it has helped me to show up as fully who I am to the work, in the sense of not kind of dividing myself into the work self that is kind of very disassociated from being a human, and the self that comes home like
Mhm.
suppressed, because at work she had to be someone else and with some other different values, and yeah, coming back home and really not recognizing myself, but through work on myself to try to be myself, and through work on the environments that I say yes to, and the places that maybe I created or co-created with other people, I'm able to like take my whole self to the work, which I think it's something, at least from my point of view, that I see that is very much needed, because again, I feel this division between the self and kind of dividing ourself to the work self and who you want to be also can be very harmful, in the sense that a lot of things can be gone away with. It's just business,
Mhm.
let's just do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to accept that in my
Mm-mm.
work. So the more I'm able to show up kind of with my whole humanity, I think uh, the work that I'm able to produce also in the world probably is better. Not
Mhm.
that I'm always able to do that, but yeah, it needs everyday courage. But yeah.
Mm. Mm.
What about you, Papi?
Yeah, I'm just yeah, absorbing what you said, and there's like
Mm.
so much in both what both of you have shared. Patience, and then you're sort of not splitting yourself so that the exhaustion is reduced. I think my I think it's probably inverse actually. So I didn't know it, but I have healed through my work.
I love it.
And um and I've been very lucky to do the work that I do, right? So when in the early days of career, I worked in a women's refuge and supported women of color to get out of difficult situations. And and then and then I realized I was one of those women that needed to get out of a difficult situation. um,
It
um,
happens. Yeah.
there you go. But it's very common, right? It's very common that we are
Yeah.
attracted to fix things that
Mhm.
aren't
Mm.
aren't right in ourselves,
Mhm.
um, and so that was, and then I worked in mental health, and after creating Mental Health First Aid as an organization, it was actually in its sixth or seventh year when I did a speech, which was 11 minutes long exactly, because I know it inside out. I told my story for the first time
Mm.
and I didn't just tell it in it was streamed across five cities
Oh my
across
gosh.
England at this from London, and I'd written this speech over several months with speechwriters helping me for the first time, and I talked about my own depression, my lived experience of oppression as a woman, and what that then mean, and the family context I came from, and it was the most powerful thing I did for my healing. Um, but then what I found, so having told everybody about the story, about the story in one go, having never told anybody what my personal investment was in mental health and why mental health first aid as an education program was so important to me. Um, I I then found that no, for a while there was deep respect from communities and people, but then after a while it became just material.
Mm.
So everybody wanted me to do. I don't even know how many podcasts I've done or how many lectures I've
Mhm.
Mm.
done. Like I've never kept a record of it, and I wished I had, but I did. I just did. I just did. But what I realized was my story was the thing that people wanted because it was
Mm.
exotic, it was
Mm.
different, it was nuanced, it had all the juicy elements of a good Hindi film, right? And a Bollywood film, um, and actually I found that after a few years of doing it, particularly in the pandemic, I just found I was exhausted, and I felt that my story became meaningless, and I it was bringing me back to
Mm.
trauma because what was happening was I wasn't moving on from that identity, and
Yeah.
actually that woman was a 23-year-old, a 27-year-old, and here
Yeah.
I was, 20 years later, still talking
Mm.
about
Talking
the
about.
the
Mm.
that thing that happened at 17 and the thing that
Yeah.
happened at
Mm.
20. So I made a very conscious decision. I think Bologna was one of the last times
Mm.
I did a shortened version of it because I
Mm.
didn't deliver a lecture, it was a discussion. But around about Bologna time, I just thought, I'm done. I'm done telling
Mm.
my story, and I'm done people using it. Not
Mm.
everybody did. I don't mean that. A lot of people it meant a lot to because there isn't enough women like me in public spaces calling out
Mm.
issues around gender in a way, gender discrimination, women's health, the stigma around uh, forced marriages. Like people aren't talking about that because of all the things that come with it. So I do think my story has an enormous amount of value, but I didn't think it was necessarily
Mm.
used in that way in every fora. And I stopped being able to see where it was having impact and
Mm.
where it wasn't having impact. So if it was a bunch of women, I still am happy to go there because I can see that it means something to
Mm.
the sisterhood.
Mm.
But if it's a media organization that wants to tell a bit of the story because it's going to sell
Mm.
health women's health.com, whatever it is, then I
Mhm.
don't want anything to do with that. So I had to step back from it. So I guess for me, a lot of my healing happened because my work had big impacts on giving other people confidence to talk about mental health, have a conversation about mental health, women to come out and go, oh, me too, that happened to me. And so when I felt that reverberation back, pieces of me healed, because I knew
Mm.
that I had paid forward uh, some of the things that I had learnt in my journey, and hopefully gave other people the confidence or the tools to have a conversation. But I think at some point it started to turn back on myself, and well, I then went back into depression, actually, is what happened.
Mm.
I had almost 2 years of feeling pretty bad again after around about that Bologna time. I came back
Mm.
in 2021. I had quite a big episode again. I've seen, and so yeah, so I suppose uh, uh, a lot of people are attracted in healthcare jobs because they haven't healed themselves, and
Mm.
I am one of those people, and as a result, hopefully, I've had a positive impact on lots of people's lives. But I also know that that's not the only way to do stuff. Like I have had to do a lot of work on myself to make sure that I'm I'm not taking my trauma to other people and trauma dumping to other
Mm.
people on other people, which again I recognize I used to do quite a lot of in early career because I came into the mental health world and everybody's a listener. So
Mm.
I telling, this was before I went public with my story with older women who were my managers. I'd end up
Mm.
talking about stuff that happened to me because people were listening for the first time and I was trauma dumping. And actually, that's not a good way to be. That I don't feel I need to take quite a lot of that to therapy, but I didn't know that I needed therapy. I didn't know therapy existed because I didn't. It wasn't in my frame of reference. So yeah, that's a very complicated answer, Arizu, to
I
to your
love it.
question.
I love it. And just to your last point on trauma dumping, I think, yeah, maybe a part of that needed to go to professionals, but I think it's also okay that you shared, like they were your community of women,
Yeah,
and what you didn't have access to probably in your own elders.
yeah, yeah,
And I think, uh, I mean, I know that right now we because the friendships became a little bit just for friendships or relationships only for the fun parts of our lives. It's, yeah, maybe we call it trauma dumping if we share also about, our problems, but that's a big part of also, I think, relationships. And we've been doing this, between the people of our age and intergenerationally for years. And yeah, I think you did what you needed and with what you had access to. Um, so,
Um, I just came across this saying. I don't know if this person invented it, but I liked it. And I mean, she wanted to tell us we've been meeting for a couple of times in a small group. And she was like, but I still cannot know you fully because to know fully a person, you need um, to have had a lot of salt
yeah.
together.
Yeah.
It's not always the sweet part, but tons of salt then means that you know the other person fully.
Mm-mm.
mm.
Now I have a question
Mm.
to wrap it up. Oh, it's easy, not easy. We'll see. You'll tell me if it's an easy question.
Never an easy question.
You answer
Really.
it
Yeah,
first.
you answer first.
No, yeah, I don't have the answer, so you go first. But actually, it's a bit to wrap it up. If you have to choose a word
Mm.
for our journey together here, these 5 plus 1 episodes, what's the word you bring with you? And now I think about it.
Mm. I'm gonna be more than a word.
Yeah, but not a full sentence because we are, yeah.
Intense but beautiful.
Mm.
Compassion.
Mm?
Compassion.
Compassion.
Mm. For yourself or for others?
That's a question.
The cure. the line compassion is empathy in action, and we did more than empathize with all the guests. We took action by listening, by sharing, by celebrating, by crying, by having patience. Like patience isn't a passive act.
Nope.
As we know. So I think empathy is a huge part of helping someone heal. I can what is when empathy is I I can hold your pain. I see you. I but action is I'm now going to I'm now going to do something about
Mhm.
it. I'm
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm,
comparison is the word that I think sums up the series for me.
mm. To me, I think it's so whether you have empathy on one side, on the other side, you have sympathy. And sympathy means I'm able to vibrate with what you are saying, but then I'll also act what I've what I've learned. Now you'll put a lot of applause.
I miss this.
Same.
Yeah, but that too is imagine if we
Yeah.
were all like, oh my God, that's it. I'm so glad I'm never
Wow.
gonna see them again.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that would
yeah,
not be nice, but
probably this is better.
yeah. And it's fine to close something so that we can open something else. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Arizu. Thank you, Poppy.
This has been great. Come here.
We all virtual hug. And virtual hug to everybody that is listening also.
Yeah, if you reach to this point,
Yeah.
you're healed.
Virtual hug.
You've got a PhD in healing. Because
We
you just
grant it.
Yeah.
started. Yeah, we compassion and sympathy and
Mhm.
thank you, Khadija. Thank you, Arizu. I've
Thank you so
really
much.
loved it. It's been a very important part of this last few weeks of my life.
Thank-
And good luck with the marathon.
Yeah.
We'll be
Or-
thinking of you.
yeah.
Sunday morning, ladies, 10:30
Yes.
I start. You need to think of me for 4.5 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll think of you for.
4.5 minutes.
I can do 5.
Okay.
Thanks.
We'll do
Welcome.
that.